Imagine the scene. A young peasant couple on the happiest day of their lives, their wedding night. But before they can be together, the shadow of the castle looms over them. The lord of the manor arrives to claim his right, the right to sleep with the bride before her own husband. This is Prima Nocta, or the Lord's first night. It is one of the most infamous, brutal, and tyrannical customs in all of history. It is also, almost certainly, a lie. In this video, we will not only debunk this powerful myth, but we will uncover the even more fascinating story of why it was invented, how it spread, and why we still love to believe in one of history's most successful pieces of fake news. Part 1. The Myth on Screen. The Power of Braveheart. For millions of people, their first and only encounter with this idea comes from one iconic source, the movie Braveheart. The film uses Prima Nocta as the brutal, inciting incident that sparks William Wallace's rebellion against the cruel English lords. The scene is powerful, emotionally devastating, and completely unforgettable. It perfectly encapsulates the ultimate form of tyranny, a powerful lord not only controlling his peasants' land and labor, but their very bodies and their most intimate moments. This concept, known in French as droit du seigneur, has become historical fact in the popular imagination, the ultimate symbol of feudal darkness. The problem: when historians go looking for actual evidence of this practice, they find a ghost. They find a historical void, an absence of proof so complete that it tells its own different story. Part 2. The search for evidence. The great absence. Let's be clear, there is no single reliable first-hand piece of evidence that the rite of Prima Nocta, as depicted in movies, ever existed as a formal legal practice in medieval Europe. Historians have searched through thousands of legal codes, court records, chronicles, and personal letters. It's simply not there. So where did the confusion come from? It seems to stem from a deliberate misinterpretation of other very real feudal customs. For example, many peasants had to pay a tax to their lord when they got married, a fee sometimes known as a merchet. This was a standard manorial tax of fee for the lord's permission for his serf to marry. Centuries later, some writers who were hostile to the feudal system looked back at these records. They saw a marriage tax and created a sensational new interpretation. This must have been a payment to waive the lord's right to the first night. It was a theory born from bias, not from evidence. Furthermore, consider the immense power of the church in the Middle Ages. The church viewed adultery as a mortal sin. It is inconceivable that such a widespread, institutionalized practice of sexual exploitation would have existed without loud, furious, and constant condemnation from popes, bishops, and priests. Yet the historical record shows no such outcry. The silence is deafening. Part 3. The Birth of a Lie, a propaganda weapon. If Prima Nocta never really happened, who invented it? The answer lies not in the Middle Ages, but centuries later, in the Age of Enlightenment. In the 17th and 18th centuries, thinkers like Voltaire were engaged in a fierce intellectual war against the Ancien Régime, the old world of absolute monarchy and aristocratic privilege. To justify their arguments for revolution and reform, they needed to paint the feudal past as a dark, barbaric, and tyrannical age. And droit du seigneur was the perfect weapon. It was scandalous. It was sexual. It perfectly encapsulated the idea of the corrupt, powerful noble abusing the innocent, powerless peasant. It was a brilliant piece of political propaganda. They took ambiguous local tales or misunderstood legal terms and amplified them into a universal right. They weren't trying to write accurate history. They were trying to win a political argument. They created a myth of past oppression to fuel a present-day revolution. The story of Prima Nocta tells us very little about the true nature of feudalism, but it tells us a great deal about the political passions of the Enlightenment. Part 4. The Power of a Good Story. Why we want to believe. So if there's no evidence and the story was invented as propaganda, why is it so persistent? Why do we want to believe in Prima Nocta? The answer is psychological. The myth survives because it's a terrifyingly good story that confirms our darkest assumptions about the past. First, it fits our modern caricature of the Dark Ages. We expect the past to be a brutal, unfair place, and this story fits that narrative perfectly. It confirms our bias that history is a simple story of progress from a dark past to an enlightened present. Second, it's a perfect narrative. It has a clear villain, the evil lord, innocent victims, the young couple, and a powerful theme of injustice. It's a simple, emotionally resonant story that is far more memorable than the complex, nuanced reality of feudal law and economics. Braveheart didn't need historical accuracy. It needed a villain so evil that a hero's bloody revenge would feel completely justified. Prima Nocta provided that. Finally, the myth taps into our deep-seated universal fears about the abuse of power. The story of a powerful man exploiting the vulnerable is a theme that resonates in any era. Prima Nocta feels true even if it isn't factually so, because the power dynamic it describes is real. So the Lord's first knight is a ghost. It is a phantom born from political propaganda, amplified by Hollywood and kept alive by our own love for a good, simple, and brutal story. It tells us far more about the people who wrote the story than the people they were writing about. Debunking this myth doesn't mean the feudal world wasn't harsh or exploitative. It was, but it was complex. Reducing it to a single sensationalist and false custom does a disservice to the real history. This journey to separate historical fact from powerful fiction is the core of our channel. If you believe that understanding why myths are created is as important as debunking them, show your support by hitting the like button. And to continue challenging what you think you know about the past, subscribe to The Knight's Journey and ring the notification bell. Because the most dangerous myths are not the ones that are easily disproven. They are the ones that tell us a story we already want to believe.